From the previous RESTful web service presentation, you have learned the building blocks of every RESTful web service and also the advantages of using RESTful web services. From this one, you will learn how to identify the objects that can be used to expose out the RESTful services, as well as the various methods that can be invoked to perform the various operations in RESTful web services. Let's get started by looking at a very simple example of library management. As soon as I say a library management application, the nouns that you can think of are the objects you can think of are books and users. So there are several books and the admin user or the end user can access these books online and reserve the books or book the books. And the admin user can add the book, delete a book, update the information of a book, etc. So these nouns become the objects for your application in any object-oriented platform or programming language you are using. Similarly, when you are exposing out RESTful services, these nouns become the objects. If you are working on e-commerce application, what are the objects you can think of? Yes, you can think about an order, a customer, a line item which is a part of every order, etc. The quantity, etc. will become a order. So similarly, you can talk about multiple applications and you can think about the various nouns in those applications. Those become the objects of your application. If you talk about hospital management, you have patients, doctors, encounter, etc. All these are the objects within the patient management or hospital management application. So for each of these objects to perform the RESTful service operations, we will be using the get, post, put, delete, etc. At a minimum, we use these 4 methods. To use that, as a provider, as a RESTful provider, I'll create my class, I'll create a method, and I map that method for each of the operation to a URI and a method. And the consumer will use that particular URI and a method to consume that particular RESTful web service. So to retrieve a book in the library management application, this is the URI that should be used by a client. And this will be mapped to a get method on the provider side. On the provider side, we are going to map this URI and this method to a method inside our class implementation to perform that particular operation. Similarly, if the administrator or the library manager wants to add a book, he will be using the post method and the content will be sent in like this along with the post request. We can use multiple data formats. In this case, it's an XML example wherein I have the book name, price, ISBN number, etc. It could be a JSON format as well. RESTful services support multiple formats. So in the post request, I will have this particular URI and which has, sorry, not this particular one, this URI and this content when it goes to the server using the post request. And on the provider side, I will map this URI along with this method to a method I will implement which will save these details into my database. You can also use the put method to do an addition or adding or a create operation in the CRUD. But with put method, you always need to pass in an unique ID from the client side. So if every book has a unique ID in the database, we have to pass that from the UI, which we rarely do. From your JavaScript, you can generate this and send it, but in real implementations, in real-time applications, we usually generate this ID on the server side. That's the reason we usually use post method, wherein you need not pass this ID, you generate it on the server side. For the update in the CRUD operations, you can use put and you can send the information as is. Just like how you are sending the information in post method. If you want to update the price of the book, etc., you can use a put method and send it. On the provider side, we are going to map this URL again, this URL, wherein you are passing an extra detail called ID. So this is a unique identifier for each book, which would be an ISBN, etc. Even in case of get, if you want to get a particular book, one book, this is the URI you should use. If you use this, it's going to bring you back all the books along when you use it with combination of get method. So to update it, you are going to use this URL in combination with put method. If you want to retrieve one single book, you are going to use this URI in combination with get. Finally, we have delete operation. When the library manager wants to delete a particular book, he is going to use again this URI with the delete HTTP method. So you see, we have one standard interface which we are going to use across our objects or services, and we can easily do all the CRUD operations and various business operations will be represented in the data format. In a future presentation, I will do the advanced topics of how to map these URIs, etc. But these are the very basics required. And in the next presentation, I will do a hands-on where you will see this in action. I will do a RESTful Java web service wherein we will expose out a web service that will allow us to do all these operations which I have just mentioned. To quickly summarize, the nouns in your application become the objects that can be exposed as RESTful web services. And to expose these web services out, we usually use the URIs and the corresponding HTTP method. The provider maps them to a particular method in a Java class or a Python object or whatever. And on the client side, the client will be using that particular operation in combination with the URLs to access a RESTful web service. It's that easy. It allows you to even access a particular web service from the browser. You need not really develop a client in Java or any programming language to do that.